so proud of that, but I also find myself asking.
This week's SmackDown delivered a jaw-dropping moment that shattered the fragile peace within the bloodline. A tense confrontation began as Solo Sikoa, the self-proclaimed tribal chief, stood in the ring, flanked by his loyal allies, the Tongan twins, Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. The atmosphere was electric, filled with anticipation as the crowd prepared for the next chapter of Solo's reign. But just as Solo started to call out potential challengers, the unthinkable happened. The smooth, commanding tones of SmackDown General Manager Nick Haldy blared through the arena speakers. The arena fell silent, and the spotlight turned to the entrance as Aldous made his way down the ramp, exuding an air of confidence and authority in his sharp black suit. Solo's expression remained stoic, but his jaw clenched ever so slightly. There was no mistaking it. The leader of the bloodline, for the first time, looked rattled. Nick Haldy stood across from him, folder in hand, and coldly uttered words that would reverberate through the entire WWE universe. "You're under investigation." The crowd's collective breath caught as Aldous went on to reveal a bombshell. Solo was accused of orchestrating several backstage assaults over the past 2 months, including the brutal attack that left Kevin Owens with a concussion and a disturbing ambush on LA Knight 2 weeks ago. The most damning part? Security footage allegedly confirmed these accusations, and whispers around the locker room suggested Solo had been working with someone manipulating him behind the scenes. Solo, unfazed on the surface, growled, "You think someone's controlling me?" "Nah, Aldous, I'm the one in charge now. Roman left this island. I am the tribal chief." His words were full of fire, but the doubts creeping into his voice were unmistakable. Aldous responded with a smirk, unflinching in the face of Solo's bravado. "You're in charge, until you aren't." With that, Aldous dropped a final bombshell, announcing a formal hearing next week. If the accusations held any weight, Solo's position and alliances would crumble faster than Roman's empire ever did. The challenge was set, and the game was on. Backstage chaos, a fractured bloodline. As SmackDown continued, the turmoil behind the scenes escalated further. Solo, clearly seething, stormed backstage and confronted Paul Heyman in a chaotic scene. "You knew about this?" Solo snarled, shoving Heyman against a wall. The wise man, usually so composed and calculating, was visibly shaken, raising his hands in a defensive gesture. "I swear, Solo, I didn't say anything. I've only ever protected you." Solo wasn't convinced. His growing paranoia fueled his rage, and the pressure he had been carrying for weeks finally erupted. His grip on the bloodline seemed to be slipping, and his allies weren't making it any easier. Heyman's assurances fell on deaf ears, but he remained steadfast, knowing better than anyone how volatile Solo could become when confronted with betrayal. The tension between them had been mounting for months, but now it seemed as though the dam was breaking. Later in the show, a camera caught a subtle, yet ominous moment. Tama Tonga and Tangaloa exchanged a hushed conversation, their eyes narrowing as they glanced toward Solo. It was a look of silent defiance. Was this the beginning of a bloodline coup? Was the unity within the family starting to crack? Fans and insiders alike began to speculate. Could the Tongan twins, who had been so loyal to Solo, be questioning his leadership? Was there someone else pulling the strings, waiting for the right moment to strike? The puppet master. Who's really in control? As the drama continued to unfold, one burning question loomed over everything. If Solo wasn't the mastermind behind these attacks, then who was? Theories ran wild throughout the WWE universe, and the possibilities were as explosive as they were numerous. One theory gaining traction was that Jacob Fatu, the powerhouse cousin who had been teased for months as a future star in WWE, might be the one orchestrating the chaos. Jacob's imminent debut had been hyped for weeks, and with his monstrous presence and family pedigree, he seemed the perfect candidate to step into the role of puppet master. If Fatu were pulling the strings, it would explain the subtle power shifts within the bloodline. Another possibility was Roman Reigns himself. While Roman had been conspicuously absent since his loss at WrestleMania 41, many speculated that he might be silently working to reclaim his throne. Perhaps Roman, ever the strategist, had been biding his time, watching from the shadows and subtly letting Solo implode from within. Could this be Roman's long game, setting Solo up to fail so he could swoop in and reclaim control of the island? Then, of course, there was the possibility that Paul Heyman, the ultimate manipulator, had finally decided to cut ties with Solo and make a play for a new client. Heyman had always been the puppet master in the background, and it was well known that his survival instincts were unmatched. Could this be his final betrayal, setting Solo up to fall in favour of a new champion, a new leader, someone who could rise from the ashes of the bloodline? Nick Aldis' daring gamble. A game of power. Nick Haldi, the SmackDown general manager, had been playing a delicate game ever since taking office. He had tried to maintain control over the chaos surrounding the bloodline's civil war, but this week he went all in. His gamble was a high-stakes move, one that could either pay off spectacularly or blow up in his face. With Roman gone and Solo consolidating his power, Haldi had largely kept his distance, preferring to let the bloodline implode on its own. However, with tensions mounting and accusations flying, the GM had taken a daring step into the lion's den. By confronting Solo directly and placing him under investigation, Haldi had made himself a target. It was a bold move, but one that could prove essential in the power struggle to come. Next week's formal hearing promised to be explosive. Haldi claimed to have damning security footage that could expose the full extent of Solo's alleged crimes, but if Solo were cleared, it would only add fuel to the fire. Either way, Haldi had now made himself the biggest target in WWE, and the consequences of his actions would reverberate throughout the roster. Solo's moment of doubt. Is his empire crumbling? As the night came to a close, Solo stood in the centre of the ring, victorious in another brutal match against Angelo Dawkins. But there was something different about him. His allies had left him during the final moments of the match, with Tama Tonga walking up the ramp without so much as a glance back. Solo, standing alone in the ring, looked down at his hands. The usual confidence in his eyes was replaced by a flicker of doubt, a small but undeniable crack in his usually unshakable resolve. For the first time in months, Solo seemed unsure of his place in the bloodline. His once iron grip on the faction was loosening, and he could feel the weight of his responsibilities bearing down on him. The empire he had built was starting to show signs of strain. Was this the beginning of the end for his reign as tribal chief? Was the island crumbling beneath his feet? And if so, who would rise to take his place? Final thoughts. The end of the bloodline. The bloodline has been one of the most dominant and enduring factions in WWE history, but even the mightiest empires are not immune to fractures. Solo Sikoa, once the enforcer and the silent force behind Roman Reigns, now finds himself in the position of tribal chief. But with his power increasingly challenged by accusations, paranoia, and internal dissent, Solo is discovering that wearing the crown comes with a price. Nick Aldis' daring investigation may have been the spark that set everything in motion, but it's the whispers of betrayal, the tension between Solo and his allies, and the looming threat of family rivals like Jacob Fatu and Roman Reigns that could ultimately shatter the bloodline. As next week's hearing approaches, the WWE Universe waits with bated breath. Will Solo survive the accusations, or will a new puppet master reveal himself, forever changing the fate of the bloodline? The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. SmackDown is about to enter a new chapter, one that could mark the beginning of the end for the Bloodline's second reign.